how to create your first tables. So we're back to week 2 DB that we created in the previous lesson. You see in the table there's no tables currently listed. I'm going to right click on the word tables and select a new table option. This is using the wizard built into SQL Server, so you don't have to manually type all the code, but we'll look at the code here in a minute. So on the column name, we'll call this the employee ID. And we're going to make this an integer data type. I can select the right value by drop-down list, or I can start typing it in. I knew for sure what I wanted to be an integer, so I'll select integer. Let's do employee last name as an nvarchar. 50 characters should be enough for a last name. And employee first name, nvarchar 50. Now I've created a table with just a few fields. Obviously for assignment for week 2 there's a lot more fields you will need to add, including data types. This is just to show you what it could look like on a very quick scale. So now that I've created a basic table, I've got 3 fields right now in my table, but I need to make a primary key because good table design has a primary key in every table. So I'm going to click on employee ID. I want this to be my primary key, and I'm going to go up here to this little button that has a key that says set primary key. Now that automatically put a little key here telling me this is now my primary key of the table. We'll talk about primary key, foreign key in a subsequent lesson, but this is how I create my primary key and my basic table. Then I hit the save button to save my table. I'll call this the employee table, and I'll say OK. Now you notice on the left-hand side of Object Explorer in my week 2 DB, all of a sudden the table that I just saved, called employee, is now visible under tables. That tells me the table has in fact been saved. I can now close this window up. My table is still there. If I want to look at the raw code, which is what I require for the assignment, I require you to submit the raw code to create the table. What you can do is after you create the table, you can right click on the table name, go to Script Table As, Create to a new query window. And what that does is that brings up all the necessary code. I'll go ahead and minimize this, and I'll minimize this part of the window, of how to create the script to create the table employee. This is my table employee. Of course, in the assignment you have more fields to add. But to save this, it's standard Microsoft type tools. Hit the save button. It's going to say, what do you want to save it to? Because you're in a virtual environment, you need to save everything to the desktop. So let's go to my desktop, change the file name. I need to change this as a save as. Save SQL as. That's the key. Save SQL1 as, or whatever the name is. I'm saving as a SQL statement on my desktop. We'll call this Raider R Week 2 Create Table. Save. Now you'll notice that it just all of a sudden popped up here on my desktop. So I can take this and I need to save it someplace. So I'm going to go Control C, standard Windows commands, go to My Files, and save it under My Files. This allows you to save that piece of code on in your virtual environment, your U drive, so that it does not go away when you restart the tool. Anything you leave on your desktop after you close a session goes away and is destroyed. So you need to copy it. You cannot access the U drive from SQL Server Management Studio, so you need to first copy it to your desktop or to C drive. Then from there, copy it over to your U drive for safekeeping. And that's how you do a basic table create script, and how to save that script. So we use the wizard to create a table. We then scripted the table out and save the script. You have to do this in week 2 for the employee table and the job title table. But that concludes this lesson.